Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you as always from Germany. Today is Sunday, it's the 12th of May 2019, and once again, I have forgotten how to podcast and also how to English. So, this is going to be a fun episode already. I'm joined today by my friend Coffee. And we're going to talk about some finished objects, some works in progress, some spinning, and some not so recent acquisitions, but acquisitions nonetheless. So before we get into all of that, if you are a new viewer, welcome to this craziness. I really hope that you will enjoy this podcast. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much. As usual, you know how much I appreciate those of you who have been following along for months or maybe even years, which is crazy. Like to think about where I was life-wise when we first started this thing compared to now, that's just crazy. Anyhow, let's get into the podcast content. So before we do all of that, we have a group on Ravelry called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group, and that's always linked right underneath this video. Last week I announced the winner of the Stranger Brews knit along, and they haven't gotten in touch with me. So again, if you did post anything in the chatter thread for the Stranger Brews knit along, please go and watch last week's episode, because I would like to let the winner know and get the prize sent out and all of that. In terms of show notes, very simply, there aren't any, but I keep very good project pages. So if you just go on my Ravelry project pages, which again I will try to link below, you should be able to find all the information about yarns, about needle sizes and patterns and designers and whatnot there. So that is it for the admin, and let's jump into some finished objects. So my first finished object, I am so happy to have these done, you guys. This is a pair of vanilla socks, and these were doing my head in. I don't know why. It's a beautiful pair of socks. The socks are lovely, the colors are great, the yarn is woolly, and it's not terrible. It's not like the worst yarn in the world, but I just didn't really enjoy knitting these for some reason. This is yarn by Lana Grossa in their Riga colorway range, and they're the self-patterning sort of socks where you have two 50-gram balls, and if you do what the ball band tells you to do, you will have two matching self-patterning socks. So that's what I did. This one is colorway number 605. And like I said, I do really like the result. I think the socks are very, very fun. I would compare this yarn to like an Opal or Regia, but it's definitely on the more rustic side, I would say. But they are done. I used my usual 64 stitches, 2.25 millimeter needle. I'm not sure who they are going to be for. Kai likes them, but they're a tiny bit too small for him. So I will let him try the one again and see how he feels, and if not, they will probably go into the gift pile and maybe to my grandma or someone later this year. Or maybe I will just gift them as just because gifts to my grandma next time I see her. We will see. The next finished object is what I am wearing today, and this entire outfit is kind of ruining the camera and all of that, because apparently this camera really doesn't like to film this colorway, and therefore the entire lighting today is kind of strange, but we'll just go with that. But I have finished my ARA sweater, which is a sweater pattern by Isabel Krämer. This was published in Leine magazine, and I just purchased the single pattern on Ravelry. I've never actually had any of the magazines, but you can get it just the single pattern now. And what it is a really pretty cable sweater. As you can see, it fits really well. You've got a big cable in the front and then smaller cables and also some mock cables paired with some moss stitch, and there's a stockinette and all of that as well. And I am so happy with this project. You guys, I had this goal of knitting a proper cable complicated sweater this year, or just more generally to get into cabling more, and this was just a project for that. Um, it wasn't the easiest project, but Isabel Kramer is a great designer, and she basically just holds your hand throughout, so that was very, very nice. I also managed to knit this entire thing without a cable needle, which is a big thing for me because I hate cable needles. You can do it, of course, but I just don't like them. What else? It's a top-down sweater. I pretty much follow the pattern to the T, except for the sleeve shaping, because I always do my own sleeve shaping. Not because I know or I think I can do it better than the designer, but just because I'm too lazy to actually read the instructions. So besides that, I didn't do any shaping for the body this time, and surprisingly it still fits really, really nicely. I think the cable and all of that is just drawing it in ever so slightly and giving a really, really nice fitted shape. And yeah, I just really, really love the sweater. The yarn that I used for this is Cambria Fingering by the Fiber Company, I think. I threw away the tags. This is the colorway Cowberry, which I still think is discontinued, but I may be wrong about that. My voice apparently is going too. I talked about in the past how I was worried that this yarn was going to be somewhat itchy to me because I can basically wear anything. I can wear like the Letlopi yarn and all of that without being bothered, but this yarn, I think the mohair in it kind of bothered me. But thankfully, I think now I'm actually okay with it. I've been wearing it a couple of times. I haven't worn the sweater a ton, but I've worn it quite a bit. And so far, it's just really lovely. It's really nice and warm. And yeah, I am so happy with the sweater. So I think last time I was still working on one of the sleeves. I don't really remember. Maybe I hadn't even started the sleeves, but I knit both the sleeves anyhow. And then I picked up for the collar or the, what's it called, neckband. And it's done, and I really, really like the sweater. I think I'm going to wear this a ton. I'm actually wearing it now because winter has returned to Germany and the weather is absolutely miserable. Yeah, so that is my sweater. I only used 3 skeins of yarn, which is insane. I bought 4, and these skeins are 300 meters per 100 grams. So I for sure expected to be using more than 3 skeins, but I actually didn't. I used just under 3 skeins, so less than 900 meters for a proper length, full-sized adult cabled sweater, which I still don't know how that worked, but that is really amazing and I'm really happy about that. So yeah, that is it for my finished objects, and we will move into some of my works in progress. I'm sorry, today I feel like I'm just talking really, really strangely. I don't know if that ever happens to you when you're like doing a speech and suddenly you think you can't talk anymore. That's how I feel. So what do? I record a podcast and put it on YouTube for everyone to see. Oh well. I'm not going to show you all of my whips today. I have 4, not counting blankets, but I haven't worked on my pavement sweater once again. And I have worked on my, what's it called, night shift shawl, but it doesn't really change that much now. So at some point I'm just going to have to bind it off because I can't look at it anymore. So I think that may happen very soon. But I do have 2 projects to show you. So first of all, last time I talked to you, which was about 10 days ago, I showed you the beginnings of a colorwork sweater, which was the ARA-what sweater. I can never remember. It's one of the newer ones by Jennifer Steingass, who is Knit Love Wool, I think, on Instagram. And I think the sweater is called Atara. No, it's called Arata. I will put it on the screen. Duh. Anyways, last time I was about halfway through the colorwork yoke, which looks like this. And now it's kind of hard to show you guys, but first of all, I'm working on a sleeve. And second of all, I'm kind of working on the bottom rib as well. So I have been almost monogamously knitting on this for the last week or so. I've been obsessed with the sweater. And I'm playing yarn chicken. I think I should be absolutely fine, but I'm doing a bit of math just in case. So what I've done is I have finished the color work. I have separated for the sleeves, knit down the body, which is just a stockinette body, knit a little bit of rib, sort of like the minimum length that I need in terms of the body if I run out of yarn, for it to still be a length that I want. So right now it's just kind of like a short oversized sweater, which is fine. So what I've done now is I'm knitting the sleeves first to see how much yarn that takes, and then if I have any yarn left, I will just then knit more ribbing before I bind off. So that is where we are right now. How pretty is this yoke? I love it. I love it so much. This is such a pretty pattern. I showed this to my sisters, and one of them wants a sweater exactly like this, except that she wants yellow instead of the rusty orange, which may happen. I mean, I really, really enjoyed knitting this. What else can I tell you about it? I tried this on, and I mentioned last week that swatching for this didn't really go very well because I swatched with the lighter color. Both of these are the same yarn, which I'll talk about in a second, but I decided to swatch with a contrast color because I knew I wasn't going to need very much of that color, and I didn't want to waste any of the main color yarn. But as it turns out, the white one, which is very likely undyed, is much, much, much thinner than the orange. So my gauge is very different on the actual garment than it is in my little swatch. Therefore, this is a lot more oversized than I expected or that I had planned. I wanted this to be a sweater with a little bit of ease, but not too much. But this actually has a lot of ease around my shoulders, around my neck. I could have probably gone down a size had I known. But it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes more oversized sweaters are really, really nice to wear. But because of that, and also the yarn chicken, I'm probably going to not make this overly long. And maybe I will do like 3/4 length sleeves. It just kind of depends on how much yarn I have left and how it all works out. I think I'd rather add a little bit of length and only do 3/4 length sleeves rather than full length sleeves and a too short of a body. Anyways, that is where I am with this right now. I'm really, really enjoying this pattern and also the yarn. This is the yarn in question, and this ball is also all I have left, but they are 100-gram balls. And the yarn that I'm using is yarn that I got in Oslo last year. This is from Pickles in their pure wool base, which is really, really lovely. If I do go back to Oslo, which actually is a possibility, Marion, I'm looking at you, we should do it. I will definitely get more of this yarn because I really, really like it. This is one of them is shade number 115, and the other shade is, I think the 115 is the orange, and this is just a natural color. I seem to have again lost the ball bands, but there we are. I really love this yarn. I'm not sure if you can see the difference between the two colors, but the orange is a lot more fluffy and thick compared to the white, which is it looks almost a little bit underplied. Not sure what happened there, but anyways, I love the sweater, and that's the main thing. Also in here I have the leftovers of my ARA sweater, and you can see how much yarn I have left from the 3 skeins that I used. So that is it in terms of my garment knits that I'm about to show you today. But I did also cast on another project because my lovely husband Kai has been bugging me to knit him more socks, and he has been bugging me very, very intensely, and he succeeded. So I showed him a couple of skeins of yarn that I really wanted to knit with, and of course he didn't want any of those to be socks. And he picked the one yarn that I wasn't really too keen on working on, but I cast on anyhow. And the yarn that he picked is one that he actually picked up in Vienna when we went about 1.5 years ago. This is by Austermann, which is a commercial German yarn brand made in Germany. And this is their hand-painted range. I've talked about this yarn before. I knit a pair of socks out of the same yarn in a different colorway for Kai in the past. I don't hugely love it just because it is the sort of standard commercial sock yarn base, so it's not super soft. But the socks that I have knit for Kai, which are also a green and I think green and white color, have lasted really, really well. So I knew that if I only knit them up, he would actually really like them and wear them. And of course, these are totally Kai's colors. This one is colorway number 15. And I have finished the first sock. And look how crazy the pooling on these are. Like, this is a sort of thing that a lot of people don't like. I don't know if I find it particularly pretty, but Kai loves these socks, so that's the main thing. Excuse me. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But yeah, the first sock is done. Kai doesn't want the socks to be super long, so I think I did about 50 rows of stockinette and then a fish lips kiss heel in garter stitch. And yeah, it's a pretty plain sock, and I have already made quite a bit of progress on the second one as well, because you know Kai, if I knit him socks, he kind of pressures me to knit them very quickly. And I like this one much better, especially on camera right now. So what happened with these, even though they are theoretically commercially dyed, you can see the first one has a lot more green speckles than the second one. And this one, there's a lot more yellow because I think the green has just over dyed a lot of the yellow here. So there's quite a bit of difference, and I really like the second one. But I know that Kai won't mind either way. He doesn't really care if his socks match or not. So yeah, I have turned the heel on the second one, so really I only have like half of the foot to go. So it should go really, really quick if only I worked on them, and then they will be done as well. And Kai will be very happy to have these. Because I sometimes don't want to be knitting Kai's humongous feet size socks, I went up a needle size. So for these I am using 2.5 millimeter US size 1.5 needles. And therefore I went down to a 64 stitch count, and they will be just fine. I don't always go up needle size wise for Kai socks, but with this kind of yarn, which I know is pretty much bulletproof anyways, I know that just by going up a needle size, it's still going to produce a really hardy, hard-wearing sock, so I'm not worried. Whereas I would probably not do that on like a merino sock yarn, because those are more likely to pill and fall apart anyways. But these, I think I can wash and wear and all of that plenty of times and nothing should happen. Which reminds me, some of you may know that a while ago I used to do sort of like sock yarn reviews and show you socks and how they've worn. And I haven't done that in a while. Would you guys be interested in hearing some more sort of sock reviews, or have we done that enough? I'm pretty happy to do them again if you guys say you're interested, except I never remember what I already showed you, so there may be some repeat offenders, but let me know and we will do it. So that's it in terms of what I'm going to show you today for my knitting. So what I will do next, I think I will show you my acquisitions first and then do my spinning. For those of you who aren't interested in that, you can then tune out, and then at the end I will talk about life in general. So in terms of acquisitions, you guys know I am on a yarn buying ban, which is so sad, in my birthday month, but that's what I decided. I have been buying fiber, but I don't really see the point in showing you fiber, and that isn't included in my yarn diet. Anyways, about 3 or even 4 weeks ago, I met up with the lovely Robin, who has the Stitching Between Pages podcast. And we went to Mercerie in Munich, which is a yarn shop, one of my favorites. And back then I picked up a couple of skeins of yarn. So everything that I picked up is actually this amazing, again, Norwegian yarn. One of my favorites, this is Rauma Phenyl PT2. This is the yarn that I knit my Strange Brews sweater out of, and I think it's becoming more and more popular within the knitting community these days. Therefore, actually, I think 2 yarn stores in Munich are carrying this space now. I really, really like it, and you may remember I brought home quite a bit of the stuff from Norway, and then I was hoping I would actually like knitting with it and wearing it, and I really, really do. So I went with a very different yarn combination for me, but I saw this quite a sort of olive color, and I thought it was really, really, really pretty. And I've kind of been changing my palette, if you haven't been noticing. I used to be all for the cool tones, and now suddenly I'm working on a rusty orange sweater, and again, this is very unusual for me. I just really like the color, and I thought about doing just a single colored sweater out of this, possibly even the magnolia, because again, I do everything that Ellie of Scandio does. But then I thought I also really want to knit the Arboreal sweater by, again, Jennifer Steingass. And instead of going with like a white contrast, I picked something a bit more crazy. Everyone in the store told me that this was going to be really, really pretty, and I think it would be. I still don't really know if I'm going to do it. But I got, I think, 4 or 5 skeins of the main color and one of these. So maybe I will do that. Maybe I will just use this with something else or by itself, and I will have one skein of 50 grams of this color anyways, because it's a really pretty color. So this is colorway number 4215, and this one is colorway number 0486. And that was supposed to be it, except Robin was also picking colors, and then we had some coffee and debated our colors and checked what yardage we needed and such. And the more I looked at her colors, which were very, very much my colors, the more I wanted them too. So I did something very similar to her, not the same thing, but something similar. And I got these 4 colors. Because they are just so pretty together. So again, it's the exact same base, the same yarn, Rauma Phenyl PT2. And I just got these 4 50-gram skeins to do a fun colorwork project with. So I could either pair them with something that I have at home and do an all-over crazy colorwork sweater, or what I am thinking about doing is doing a colorwork cowl, or like a colorwork scarf even, but one that you knit in the round, and then you don't have to weave in any ends, and it will just be sort of like a double thickness scarf or cowl, and that would be really, really fun. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I know that Espace Tricot, they have a colorwork collection called the Chalet collection, I believe. And there's a scarf pattern in there which is really, really, really pretty. It's got like colorwork on both ends, and then a lot of like fleece stitches and one color with fleece throughout the scarf. I don't have the right yardage for that, but I could figure something similar out. I'm pretty sure I have this color in my stash, just in probably a different dye lot. But anyways, I just want to have some fun with these colors because they were so pretty, and this yarn is quite affordable. So that was my very last purchase before my yarn diet began, and I just wanted to show that to you very, very quickly. So now let's move on to some spinning content. So for those of you who are new, I love spinning. I learned how to spin on a drop spindle and then moved on to my Bliss wheel by the Woolmakers, which I love. I still love that wheel so much. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got myself a e-spinner, so an electrical spinning wheel. And I have the Ashford e-spinner 3, which I love. It's so much fun. I really love him. I named him Eddie, and he's a person, and sometimes he does stupid things, but most of the time we get along really, really well. So I've been working on some different skeins and getting very different results, and I'm really, really happy with them. So last week I mentioned that I was spinning on 100% Swaledale yarn, or fiber I should say. So I'm pretty sure Swaledale is a British sheep breed, but please don't quote me, I did not look it up. But I have finished the skein, and this is what it looks like. It was just a very natural colored piece of fiber that I ordered online for not very much money. And what did I do? I did not write it down, which is always a good idea. What did I do with this? Why do I not write these things down? So I am about 99% sure that yes I did a chain ply. So this is a 3-ply yarn, and I have almost 200 meters, so it's about a DK, maybe worsted weight yarn. And I really like how this turned out. This is of course again very woolly, very sheepy. I spun this worsted. I'm not sure why I did, because I think I should have spun it woolen long draw, but I just wanted to spin some nice and even short forward draw, and that's what I did. And then I chain plied it, so I have a woolen style 3-ply yarn. It's quite thick and condensed, which again explains the not super high yardage, but I'm quite happy with it. And this again was just kind of like both a spin to get to know my wheel better, and also to get to know different breeds of fiber, which you may know I've been experimenting a lot with lately. So that's the first thing that I finished. And then I spun something really, really nice. I got some fiber from Das Mondschaf. And I got a braid of BFL mohair. So it's 70% BFL, blue-faced Leicester sheep, and 30% mohair. And this was my very first time spinning with mohair yarn, or mohair fiber. I've spun quite a lot of BFL before, even though I'm not a huge BFL fan. I feel like everyone these days loves BFL, and I'm just not a huge fan, neither with spinning it nor with knitting with it. I don't hate it, I just, it's BFL. Anyways, but look at this yarn, I am so happy with this. So I got the braid, and I was quite scared and didn't really know how to work it up, but then I just decided to split it into very, very thin strips. I don't know, maybe like 8 strips or 10 strips, something like that. And then I just spun them all up onto 2 bobbins. And it was really interesting. I found the mohair quite difficult to spin because it was very slippery. It kind of reminded me of silk a little bit in terms of spinning it. So I realized very quickly that it needs quite a bit of twist. But now I thought I had spun quite high twist singles, and then I 2-plied them, and it's actually not a very high twist yarn, which is really, really nice and also very interesting. So I spun this up in order to then knit a shawl out of this. So I want something lacy out of this yarn, hence having it high twist was my priority. I wanted something soft, something drapey, and that is exactly what I got. So you can see there's all these greens in there, and then some shades of pink. And I'm not sure if you can see, but this is quite fuzzy, and it is super, super soft. I really love the barber poling in this yarn. I think it turned out super, super well, if I may say so myself. And I'm just so proud of this skein of yarn. You guys have no idea. This was definitely one of my most fun spins that I've done on my e-spinner. I really, really enjoyed working this up. Let's open it up. I'm just very, very happy with the result of this spin. Like, it's drapey, it's barber poling, it's got a halo to it, it's super soft, and I still think if I do something lacy, like I really want to do some proper eyelet lacy, holey shawl with it. I think this is going to work with it really nicely and should actually show off lace quite well. So you may know that I love knitting both the Shaylin shawl, which is a very simple stockinette and lace shawl, a triangular one, and there's another one by Maria Monska. I can't remember the name right now off the top of my head, but again, I've knit that quite a few times. I've actually knit that before with handspun, with a Polworth handspun actually, which Polworth didn't turn out to be the greatest fiber to use for a lacy shawl, but I think this would be perfect for it, so I'm very, very happy with this. And then lastly, I spun up some more samples because I got myself a kilo of fiber. I got myself a kilo of German fiber from a sheep called Coburger Fuchs. I'm pretty sure Coburger Fuchs is only available in Germany, but I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't put too much research into it. I'm very sorry about that. But there's a shop that had offered a couple of different sheep breeds in these 1 kilo kind of huge carded bats for a very reasonable price. And so I got myself a kilo of this fiber and then got started sampling. And I found out that you're supposed to spin this fiber long draw. Like if you want something that is, I want to spin for a sweater, if not two, because I have enough fiber to probably spin for two. And this is not the softest fiber, so spinning it woolen style should make it nice and fluffy and not too ropey. So I started spinning up some woolen long draw singles, and the first one I did a woolen 2-ply, and I'm actually quite happy with this. Then I also did a 3-ply / chain ply, so I'm not sure if you can tell the difference. The chain ply is definitely much rounder. It is somewhat more defined. I'm not sure if you can tell. Whereas I think the 2-ply is more like your typical woolen spun yarn. So the bottom one is the 2-ply and the top one is the 3-ply. So that was quite interesting. I don't know what I got in terms of yardage for the 3-ply, but in terms of the 2-ply, I got something close to 300 meters per 100 grams, which that is a good thickness of yarn to spin forward towards. So I'm pretty happy about that. I then decided to spin up a bigger sample, again, woolen style long draw singles, and tried to get them a little bit thinner and also then ply it a little bit tighter. So this is again another 2-ply. I thought it was going to be much different, but it turns out they're pretty much the same. I didn't really expect that, but apparently I defaulted back to what I was doing in the beginning. I think you can see that the bigger one, my third skein, is a little bit more defined because I think the singles are a little bit more evenly and tightly spun. Oh my gosh, I'm making this super complicated. I'm very sorry to be so technical. Anyhow, so I'm thinking I definitely want the 2-ply yarn for my sweater. I may actually either then plant dye the yarn or knit a sweater and then dye it. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really decided. So these samples may actually be landing in some dye pots at some point. But that is where we are. I really like this first 2-ply sample. Like, it's just so fluffy, and it kind of reminds me of Jameson and Smith, their 2-ply jumper weight. That is actually a Shetland yarn, but I do think that the structure is quite similar in that it's very, very fluffy and very light because there's just so much air in the yarn. In fact, I think I've done a couple of woolen spun yarns, but I'm actually the most happy with this one. That's maybe my best woolen spun yarn that I've managed to spin so far. So very happy with these. I am not 100% done yet. I don't feel like I'm ready to start this project. I also don't know if I want to start it right away. But anyways, it was really fun, and it's really fun to have a big amount of fiber so that you can actually spend all this time and put all this thought into it. I think the thing that is stopping me from just spinning the sweater amount so far is, you may remember I've spun for a sweater before. I spun and knit a Corriedale sweater. And for that, I realized that my spinning was nicer than I thought. It was much faster than I thought, but I also got very much confronted with the fact that throughout 400 grams, I think, which I spun, my consistency wasn't that great, and that was spun worsted style. And I have less experience with woolen spinning, so I feel like with woolen spinning, my consistency is probably going to be worse rather than better. So I think I'm worried about that, but I may just be psyching myself out. I don't really know what I'm doing yet with this. I may just jump into it, or I may do some more sampling, or I may just put it in the shelf for a while and come back to it later. I don't really know yet. But that's what I've been doing, so I feel like I've been doing a fair bit of spinning if you look at that. Very, very happy with these gains, and still very happy with my e-spinner. I actually have been thinking, I know I did some sort of question and answer videos in March, and I thought I had answered all the questions, but it turns out that I had a couple of questions on spinning, which I have never answered. So again, I'm thinking maybe one day I will do like a special episode on spinning. How did I get started? Like all your questions. If you have more questions, please just send them to me. And that may be an interesting sort of special episode to do. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. I'm definitely all about the spinning at the moment and planning to knit more with my hand spun as well. So yeah, I'm in a very good spinning place right now. So that is it in terms of the knitting and spinning and yarning content of the show. Besides that, not that much has been happening. I've been working a lot. I've been quite busy. This weekend we actually went to visit my family in beautiful, beautiful Franconia, which was lovely as usual. Tomorrow is actually my birthday, but we are trying to keep it casual, so we're both working, and then we'll just be going out for a nice dinner then tomorrow night. And besides that, I mean, I already have my most exciting birthday present, which I gave to myself, which is my e-spinner. So I'm happy with that and happy to just keep it casual this year, and I'm sure bigger birthdays will come up at some point. So with that, I think I'm just going to let you go because I have been trying to record this segment for a while now, and I just end up rambling on about nothing, which is usually a good sign to end the podcast. So thanks again so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. I will be back either next weekend or the weekend after. I'm keeping it casual these days and feeling very good about that. So I'm gonna go do some knitting. I hope you do the same. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely week. Happy knitting. Bye. Let's try this again with some coffee. And also some spinning actually. Today is going to be quite heavy on the spinning content. What's the word? Content.